Hello, Valerium community. It's DC here for Brand Communications with Gary, our CEO. And we just wanted to go through a couple of updates for you. We've been really busy behind the scenes, so I managed to snag Gary in between his meetings and calls to answer some of the questions that people have been sending in. So thanks, Gary, taking the time to do that. Let's go straight in. So a lot of work has been going on behind the scenes regarding QGP. So I thought let's just go straight to it. What's the update there, Gary?
Morning, DC. Yep, there's the elephant in the room question, and that elephant's been around for quite a few months now. So I guess probably the best way to phrase it is we're treating QGP like any other token deal, like we're a tokenization company. And there are two things that are absolutely crucial. So when we launch a token for somebody else, you have to really do two things, right? Number one, you have to prove that you are real and you've got title, legal ownership, and all those other good things. Let's call it legitimacy of who you are and the underlying asset. And the second part of that, which is the same for any token, and so I think we're being consistent, is you have to be able to prove liquidity against that token. And that bar, it's a high bar because it's proving that token's liquid. And it's no different than any other deal that we do. So we were very, very clear with QGP on day one. They have been around the houses to deliver against that, to number one, get the verification, and which one was easy, right? We agreed with QGP. We hired a leading Cayman lawyer who's also very big in the UK, and they gave us all a letter of comfort. So they checked every piece of documentation, they got all the different pieces they need, and they gave us a letter of comfort, and that's what we relied on for one. And we have tried various things with QGP, as they have, whether it's repoing the bond that sits behind it, or whether it's providing something that's basically got one of these AMMs, so these automated market makers that sit behind the token that provide you with liquidity. And we all really, really hope that they manage to get there, right? But they will either get there or they won't get there, right? And at some point we have to park the bus and move on. And we've been consistent with everybody that they have not been able to sell shares, exercise warrants, do anything else. So all the shares we issued are all frozen to our benefit until QGP get there. So at some point we just, we've agreed with them that there has to be a milestone where we're just going to carry on with the mainstay of our business. And so if they get there, great, right? We're all super happy because that probably does open up our pathway to NASDAQ a lot quicker. And it means we've got great liquidity to go and do other stuff on that journey. So that's along with the roadmap that people have seen. And if they don't get there, unfortunately, Peter and Gerhard will have to leave the board until they do get there. And then we're just going to carry on running the business, right? But we're not reliant on QGP. It's very much an extra. It was always something to enhance the business. We always agreed at the point that basically we came out of our closed period. So we're in and around I guess that milestone where, but it can't just constantly be next week, next month. We're trying to run a business here. So I think in the next couple of days, they're either going to get there or they're not, right? And if they don't, we've got, however many it is, 250 million shares that will be interesting for other people in the future, and we will carry on running the business.
Absolutely. You mentioned previously as well in one of the Vox updates, which you can find on Valereum.com, about the GIC deal, the corridor. Could you give us an update on what's going on there?
We can. And I think it's almost reflective of that when we changed the shape and what we did about a year ago, we brought in, fortunately we brought in a non-exec who's worked for 2 US presidents. He was also an economic advisor to the White House. We brought in a few people who've done M&A, right, and private equity. So we bolstered up what I would call proper financial services expertise. I'm kind of a dyed-in-the-wool, was in banking forever. So what we've managed to do, and I give Carmen Carmen had said, right, full credit for this. We converted the SIGSA mandate, or the CoinGT mandate, which was $325 million. We are now their sole lead advisor on a $25 billion deal for them. It's a phenomenal deal for the firm. It's a deal that not only has made markets profitable. Right, we get paid retainer fees every month. That could be 3 months, or it could be 3 years and 3 months. They are proper investment banking fees. We also get paid incredible performance fees if we deliver on the mandate that they have given us. Now, we're not going to share in real time how that deal's going. Right, that we're actually just out in the process of raising the first tranche of equity over the summer. We are all down. Well, not all of us, but Seb, Matt, and I are down in Guatemala and El Salvador in a couple of weeks' time with the big announcement. There'll be some other big announcements that follow on at a government level for that deal. That deal is a phenomenal deal. If you imagine top 5 choke points for trade and freight logistics, right? Everybody now knows the Strait of Hormuz now. Panama Canal's number 3, right? So getting from one ocean to the other ocean in the Americas, the interoceanic corridors. So this will be a top 5 infrastructure deal. This is a phenomenal deal for a small tokenization firm to be doing. It just happens to reflect the disparate skill set that we've got, that we are actually quite useful in TradFi, old school financial services, with project finance and structured finance and securitization, along with effectively DeFi, which is really tokenized digital finance. So the solution will end up being a combination of all of those for a deal that's been 25 years in the making for our good friends at Sigsa. So that deal is going incredibly well. It's made markets profitable in its own right, and we expect that to continue ad infinitum. So just for the next couple of years.
So you mentioned markets there in terms of Valereum markets. The business itself, obviously, to do with the GIC, is getting stuck in there. How is the business growing and developing aside of that?
Well, I would say we've gone not necessarily wider, but deeper. I think what we've realised is, number one, Carmen still runs that business, and Carmen, who came from CNAD, has always run that business. So she's always run that business on the ground. Adrian Hogg, who basically, I guess, was the de facto CEO, but he was in the UK. You can't really run a Central American business that predominantly speaks Spanish if you're in Gloucestershire not speaking Spanish. So we realized that wasn't sustainable. Carmen is an excellent leader of our business. So we're very, very happy that her role has basically been expanded. She won the GIC deal, the Sigsa deal. She's incredibly well connected in the region. So what we found, and I think this is, we speak to the other big tokenization platforms, people like the Chintais of this world and the RWAs, is you've got to choose where you're going to set up camp. Now we kind of looked at doing a handful of smaller deals. They're as tough to get done as the big deals, and you don't get paid anywhere near. So I think what I would say we're going to probably do, we're really focusing on 3 or 4 things at the moment. They're all big things, and we may team up with somebody who does the smaller style deals. It's just your unit of output doesn't reflect your unit of input for the smaller deals. Like we spent an awful lot of time on Clinics, really difficult deal, pre-revs, AI to get done. Wageen deal, we launched the token. But again, the conundrum in the tokenization business, which again, the CoinGT deal is a lot easier because of its global appeal, it is ultimately you can originate all these deals, but you've really, really got to have the investor reach at the same time. So you've either got to have a lot of clients yourselves, or you've got to have like what we've done, like the Injective, Integra, RW. You've got to have a whole bunch of partnerships to get to people, but you've got to be able to ultimately issue tokens that you can sell to investors, and they're the right deals. So we're very happy. We think we're more focused around a fewer deals. Some of them will take, like we think the Sigsa deal will be a 2, 3, 5 year deal, the GIC deal. Some of the other deals, some of the mine tokenizations, which are the other big thing we focused on. We spent a lot of time with QGP building a gold ecosystem, so a financing to mine, given their skill sets and their history in that space. That's still very much core to what we do. We're probably working on 5 gold deals, about 4 titanium deals, and a few others. They're all big deals, right? All of these mines are 10, 15, $20 billion each in terms of the reserves in the ground. The token value is 1/10 of that or 1/5 of that. So I would say we are more focused. So fewer deals, but they're all big numbers, right? But they've all got way different probabilities and how long they take. Some of them could happen in 3 months. Some of these will take a year or two.
You mentioned mining there, and obviously touched on RWAs in terms of critical and rare earth mineral tokenization, and specifically V-Gold, which you've mentioned before. Is that what Valereum Markets is going to be kind of concentrating on?
But by coincidence. So we started off with V-Gold, and then we attracted a few other people. If you look at the disparity that's gone on with China's opened up a huge lead against the US. And a lot of it was like, Bukele in El Salvador came out and said he thinks they've got $3 trillion of rare earth minerals under their feet. Guatemala's really got the same conundrum. It's on that volcanic kind of corridor, the triangle, I think it is. So we've ended up getting involved, number one, by virtue of being involved in the Guatemala, El Salvador, the GIC, and we're in El Salvador. We've ended up looking at a lot more of those deals, and I think just probably also by courtesy of Matt working for the US government, the biggest buyer globally at the moment happens to be the US trying to catch up with China. So it's an area that I would say we're probably looking at 6 or 7 things, which we have a natural seller and a natural buyer, right? So it does fit nicely. And I was trying to explain this yesterday to somebody, that almost by chance, because we're registered and domiciled in El Salvador, and that's where there's a huge amount of interest, and there has been in Peru and Chile, and there is in Brazil at the moment. So in that space, it's largely it's in the proximity to the US is phenomenal. The increased connectivity to the US is much improved, and it's on their doorstep, right? And then they're not going to let the Chinese go in and pinch all the rare earth minerals.
No. Okay, interesting. And another burning question I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to ask is that yesterday, of course, we released our financial audit. Can you talk around the accounts and the share price?
Talk a little bit. Definitely a year of transition. We were lucky enough, even though the value we made, I don't know what it was, some thousands of % return on our Binance or London Bitcoin shares, and that was a good outcome for us. We took that money, which turned out to be a good decision, and we invested it in a handful of companies. I think a couple of those are going, like DigiShares going really, really well. I think Fidium's started to go really, really well, but I think there's lots of people in that space. So Anna and her team have had like tough yards, but we like that space. It's crypto payments. It's as a service models. The DigiShares business great. The Bluebird guys, we parted ways. I think we realized very early on that we weren't going to get on with each other. They were in Australia. They had I kind of like what they do, but they've done a deal subsequently. So that one we're writing off to experience. They were the 3 big ones that we've done. At the moment our cash position has improved immeasurably. We're now a company making revenues with the 2026 numbers. We're now booking steady, continuous monthly revenues. Our burn rate, we're markets business is now profitable, so we've brought our overhead down. The balance sheet's a little bit messy because you will have seen unwinding effectively Binance and then buying, and because we from an accounting perspective we have to. None of these are financed since, so we've had to impair them quite a bit just purely because that's the way the accounting works. But I think it's a transition year. We're quite happy that we're now, we spent years losing money and spending money on things that didn't work or we couldn't sell. We've now got a business that is actually closing deals and booking revenues, right? And that's where we wanted to get to, and that's what we kept telling people. I think we've got a handful of deals that are all signed deals, so they're not work in progress, could be deals. It's a case of when they close, and obviously the GIC deal has closed, and that's going to be a 2 or 3 year multi-billion-dollar fundraise that we are front and center on. So shape of the business great, and certainly not reflected in the share price, but I think maybe a lot of that is, we had an awful lot of people long of warrants selling them into an illiquid market for whatever reason they were doing. Lots and lots of retail legacy holder uncertainty over, QGP, our model. I would hope we can really be really clear about what the business is going forwards. It's an incredibly low burn business now. We're incredibly, I don't use the laser focused on a handful of things. And the QGP thing will either come good or we'll have to park it and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate those updates, Gary, on that. While I still have you, is there any other stuff going on or anything you can share?
Well, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. I think some of it is, and we're incredibly reluctant to give a running commentary. I know that shareholders, and I get 100 emails a week of people asking for a running commentary. Number one, I think our advisors would shoot us, and I don't think it would be fair if you give one little group a running commentary and not everybody. I think one of the reasons why we brought in Vox was to keep people better informed when we can. There's a time and a place for all these things. Obviously, the last 6-8 weeks, whilst we've been finalising our audit and our accounts, we've just not been able to do that. And also the QGP thing, we've been trying to give weekly updates on that. It's either it's going ahead or it's not going ahead update now. We have got a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's some JVs, some further JVs, which with companies that are incredibly complementary. We are working. Most of the people in the space are more friends than they are foes. So when, like, we do stuff with Chintai is a good example, and I think they're one of the other really good tokenization businesses out there. They're more investor focused, certainly from where we see it. So there's a couple of things I think we'll definitely be announcing in the next, let's say 6 weeks, right? But I think certainly the space is interesting. Everybody will have seen, well, not everybody, people may have seen the Securitized close their SPAC, and it was quite a decent SPAC as well. So they'll be acquisitive. They'll be trying to bolt things on. That was really a tokenization shell business. I think the space remains interesting. I think tokenization remains challenging. Still, the investors aren't really buying anywhere near the degree of tokens that people thought they might be by now. And albeit we've got queues of issuers, right? We could be issuing tokens every week, but the reality is, unless you can find good investors for those, you're just wasting time. So there'll be some other stuff I think will come out there that's complementary to what we're doing.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, really, thank you for your time, Gary. I know you're busy. And for everyone else, if you want more information on Valereum, don't forget, check out on valereum.com, hit the Vox, and then you will see every 2 weeks we're releasing information related to all the comings and goings of the business. And of course, keep an eye out for our RNSs, which again are on the website. Yeah, thank you again, Gary. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks, DC. Thanks very much, everyone.